Good afternoon, everyone. I am very grateful to be here today. My name is Andrew Gomison, and I will be your host for the Speaking for Him podcast. Excited about the inaugural episode, and I'm also excited that I have a co-host with me in the studio today, Adam McNutt of WJQ fame. Thank you, Adam, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Today, we're just going to talk a little bit about my ministry and how I came to start it and how I got to this point. So I hope this is a fun time for everyone listening.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, about your ministry real quick.
Sounds great.
All right, cool. Why did you start Speaking for Him Ministries? I've heard a lot about it, but I've never heard the story.
Well, here's the story in a nutshell about why I started Speaking for Him. I've always had a heart for young people, and I've always had a heart for speaking the truth of God into their lives. And one of the things that I started to think about in college was the fact that young people needed to be encouraged to seek God with their whole hearts and to not waste their youth, especially their teenage years. And so I decided to start to write a book for young people about what it means to serve God even though you're young. And then that led me to start to consider the specific roles of men and women, and then the specific roles of families and how they integrate into society and how they make our society what it is. So that's the nutshell story of why I started the ministry, and it really was a product of a lot of prayer and discussions with my parents and other people, some very special friends that came into my life at a very specific time that kind of confirmed that was the direction that God was leading me in. And so I'm grateful to have this association with WJQ, and I will take this opportunity to say thank you to them for the opportunity to use this studio for this podcast. I'm very excited about it.
That's awesome, and we're glad to have you here. I don't own the place, so I can't take credit or anything, but great to have you here to be doing this podcast. That's an awesome start, and how Speaking for Him Ministries is continuing to build, as you said, from that story. Do you mind me asking, too, what is kind of the main mission of Speaking for Him?
The main mission of Speaking for Him comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, where Paul is encouraging his fellow believers that they would walk worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I have a passion for the lost, but I think my primary goal in my ministry is to reach out to those who are already following Christ and to encourage them to follow Him more closely, and to realize the impact that we can have on our culture at large when we're following God and being vocal about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for answering that. Now, another question I have to ask is, Andrew, you just kind of talked about this a few weeks ago. You talked about this podcast, and you're like, "Hey, Adam, would you want to come on and do this?" So I really have kind of no idea what to expect. I'm just pressing buttons at this moment, and that's about it. But I'm loving it. What can everyone out there expect from this new podcast with Speaking for Him Ministries?
Well, we're gonna just take an honest look at some very important issues. We'll be dealing with relationships. We'll be dealing with things in our present culture. Like coming up, we're going to do a podcast about the elections and why it's important to vote. There probably won't be any specific endorsements coming out of this podcast, but just a look at what the Bible has to say about being involved in the culture and just different issues as they come up. Perhaps some movie reviews, and also I want to take this opportunity to say that I want this to be a fan-driven show. So if people have segment ideas or topic ideas or things that they want us to discuss, they can email me at andrew@speakingforhim.com and let me know, and we can see if we can work it into a future show. And I hope that you'll join us every Friday.
That's awesome. All right, cool. What were you kind of here talking about today on the first episode of the podcast?
Well, I just wanted to give an overview of the ministry, and I hope that people are encouraged to check out speakingforhim.com. There's always changing content there. Whenever I preach, I put audio from those engagements on there, and there's a contact form that you can contact me to come speak at your church. And there's also a blog that I write in fairly regularly. And so I hope that you will make your presence known there as well as on the Facebook page. I have to say that there will be a giveaway when we reach 50 likes. And we're about 20 likes away from that. So if you take the opportunity, if you're listening to this podcast, surf on over to Facebook, like us on Facebook, and then you'll be able to interact with the show because we will hopefully get to the point where we're checking out that page during the show and seeing what people are saying about our topic.
Very cool. If I like the Facebook page like 21 times, does that count or not quite?
I don't think that even works, but good try, Adam.
Okay, I figured I would try that one, but yeah, probably not going to work out. Well, looking forward to do this with you, Andrew. Thanks so much for asking me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate people taking the time to listen, and again, this is a first go at it, so it may sound a little rough coming out, but again, I'm just excited to be here. Thank you to Adam and to WJQ for allowing me this opportunity. I know that Adam doesn't have to be here, and I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to end today with a quote. This quote really speaks to one of my biggest passions in life, because it says this: willpower does not change men. Time does not change men. Christ does. And that's by Henry Drummond. So I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking to you again next Friday on the Speaking for Him podcast.